Hey friends, welcome back to Homeschool-ology. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Nikki. I'm a homeschooling mom of 4. I've got an 8th, 4th, kindergarten, and technically she's pre-K kiddo around here. And on this channel, I talk to you mostly about secular homeschooling, but I also like to include things about like motherhood and homemaking and having a larger family and traveling with a larger family. And today's video fits in very well with all of that because we are talking about time management. So today's video is a collaboration hosted by Melody over at Homeschool Happy Hour, and it is I, and a bunch of other secular homeschooling moms here on YouTube and a few on Instagram. Sometimes some of us, the Instagrammers, tag along as well. And so I will be linking the playlist to that channel here, and then over on Instagram I will be tagging people who are participating over there. But today, as I mentioned before, the topic of the video is time management. So let's dive in. I am filming this video the day before it is due. I am seriously, like, literally filming it now, going to edit it, upload it, and it is due tomorrow. It goes live tomorrow. And so what I'm going to be talking about today is time management, and I might not be the best example of how to successfully manage time. But it is something that I struggle with because I do have a lot of spinning plates. I homeschool my kiddos, which is #1 priority, but I also have this channel, which does take a lot of work. And then I also run, or I'm the chair of the co-op, our local co-op, secular co-op. So that takes a lot of my time. I also teach in that co-op 3 classes, so I've got all that prep time. And then I also have a bakery, and I teach baking classes. I'm doing a lot less like baking for other people and focusing more on those classes now, but that is something else that pulls my priority. And we haven't even begun to talk about like the home, like feeding my kids, cleaning, laundry, all of those other things. So there are a lot of things on my to-do list. It is just an ever-growing, ever-expanding to-do list. And then on top of all of that, we love to travel and we're gone a lot. So then I'm packing and prepping and unpacking and being gone and not even being able to work on my to-do list. And so it is definitely, there's a lot going on, and I do have to manage that. So I am going to talk to you about a few of the things that I do to kind of like manage that and work on that. But I also I can't wait to watch this playlist and see if anybody else has any tips that can maybe help me. But let's kind of get started on what I do now. I've talked about this before, and I have these 2 planners. I keep 2 separate planners, technically 3 because I have my homeschool planner over there, but I do like back planning or post planning or whatever you want to call it. So I have these like sheets that I fill out for my kids and then write it in after they've done it. But so technically I have 3 planners. So this one is kind of like my life in the bakery. This is just like appointments, my daily to-do list, what I need to get done for the bakery, travel plans, everything. So this is just my personal life planner. And it is just a blue sky planner, this blue sky from Target, and I do it annually. This really, I like having it annually, like so January to January, or for my personal planner. This one over here is again just another planner from Target. I think it's also blue sky if I remember correctly. Yes, it is also blue sky. I am very specific about the layout that I want, and so these were the only 2, which I love florals, so this one fits me very well, but this one is just plain. It's my favorite color, but these are the only 2 that I found that like I really liked, that are like the personal layout that I like. So I'll show you that in just a second. But this one is for this channel. So it's like all my videos that I'm going to do, all the things that I need to do for all of that stuff. So for me, putting it all in one planner was too much. It's too distracting when I have that much going on and that much to look at. So actually having separate planners helps me a lot with my time management, because when I'm working on YouTube, I'm looking at this and it is only YouTube. It is only the things that I need for that. When I'm working on homeschool, I have my homeschool planner. I am only looking at homeschool. I'm focused solely on that. This one, is a little bit different because it has 2 things in it, but because the baking, I'm not doing as much of that now. I can fit it in here and it's okay. But at one point I would have had 3 different planners for all those different things. And it just, for me, it is easier for me to focus on one thing at a time, and get that one thing done before I move on to the next one. And having everything else on my to-do list, all of it right there kind of overwhelms me, and then I get like paralysis. So I do have it's self-diagnosed, but I'm convinced I have ADHD. I meet every checkbox on the checklist. And so I am trying to use some of those coping skills that I've learned about, and it is helping. It is helping with that. And so focusing on one thing at a time really works for my brain. So I do keep separate planners. I do get smaller ones, since I'm not putting everything in one, I can get the smaller ones, and they just sit on my desk. I don't really have a desk. I've shown this before. I'll link a video here, but we have we turned our dining room into a homeschool room, and then we just have the big long dining table, and I just use one end of it for my desk. But I just leave them there, and I can go through them and look through them and make checklists. So I'm going to show you the layout that I like the most, and I'm going to show you December because it's the month that doesn't have anything written in it yet. Not that we don't have things in December, I just haven't written them down yet. But I like this monthly layout. That's just blank months, so that I can write in, let me go back and show you, maybe August. So I can go in and write in like whatever I need to get done or whatever appointments we have. I do try to use like a color system. So I have a color for the bakery, and a color for the kids, and a color for me, and a color for the whole family, and a color for my husband, so that it kind of like makes, I can look at it and see, am I committed to this, or is this somebody else's thing? But all of that gets written in on this spread, and then in the pages, I have to have lines. I can't have a blank box. I have to have lines. That's just me personally. So I make sure I find one that has lines, and then I want it by day. And so, and not a checklist, no timestamps. I don't want any of that. I just want a blank box that has lines in it. So I make myself checklists. And again, here you can see the color code system. So like orange is for co-op, and pink is for like household stuff, and blue is for this channel, and green is for the bakery. And so keeping it in like sections, like so this day I had a lot of different things I needed to work on, and keeping it in sections and color coded really has helped me to focus on, I'm only working on green tasks right now. Let me work on these green tasks right now. And it really does help me to get, if I'm only working on one thing at a time, it helps me a lot. So, and then you'll see some days, like this day was an all orange day. That was something that I really needed to accomplish. I dedicated the whole day to it, so I wasn't distracted by other things. So that has been really helping me a ton, is like keeping, here is the list of things that I need to do for this category of my life, and here is the list of things that I need to do for this category of my life. And so I'm going to focus solely on planning for homeschool this week. That's what I'm working on right now. I'm going to work on this group of checklist items. And then in the back, I do keep like a running checklist item of like big things that need to get done, like house projects that need to get done, or like a curriculum that I might be like working on evaluating, or things like that. And then I can, when I've completed my checklist, but let's be honest, that never happens. But if I'm not working on something that is like a daily I need to do right now, then I can pull from that checklist as well. What that typically means though, is that I'm excelling really well in one area of my life, and then the other areas might be falling to the wayside a little. It's working right now for me, and so I just kind of have to accept that. Like, I can't be on my game in all of my 5 to 6 different categories of my life. Like I have to focus on one thing at a time, and that's what works for me. And so that's what I do. That does mean that like if we are killing it at homeschool that week, we are getting so much done, we are doing lots of activities, we're really diving deep, extra deep into different things, that means that my house is probably going to be pretty messy. And if I'm doing a lot of baking, I have a class coming up at the end of the week and I really need to get a lot of baking done, that might mean that our homeschool week is not as fluffed up as some other weeks. We might just be getting the basics done that week. If I have a lot of co-op things to be working on, this channel might take a little bit of a hit. And then it's all about making priorities. Like my priority with this channel is that I have a video that goes out Monday and Wednesday. And then any collaboration videos. That's my priority. And when I have the time to do more than that, when I have the time to do things on Instagram and work on the blog and do all the other things that go along with having a channel, then I'll do that. But there are weeks where I get the bare minimum done, which is get 2 videos posted. So that is kind of a give and take from this kind of method of, you know, focusing on one thing heavy and really knocking everything out in that one thing, that one area. I heard Shauna from Making Everyday Magic say the term a completionist, that she was a completionist. I am very much that way. I am not satisfied unless the job is done. And so being able to get jobs done really helps me feel more successful. So even though one area of my life might be excelling because I'm getting those jobs done and the other ones might be, you know, not getting as completed as I'd like them to be, as long as I'm rotating those out and I'm getting that sense of completion, it makes me feel more successful. And if I feel more successful, then I tend to do more. If I feel overwhelmed and I feel like I can't get anything done or I'm being pulled in too many directions, then I basically just get paralysis and I get nothing done. So that has been something that has really, really helped, is like focusing on one job at a time. But obviously I'm getting this video done the day before it is due, which means, you know, like I could use some improvement here. So another thing that helps me a ton is having like a routine or like an order of things that are done. So for instance, like with meal planning, having categories, and I know I'm picking, you know, on Mondays, I've talked about this before, and I do have my my little sheet that I use on my website. So I'll link my website here and down in the comments. But having like a category so that I know on Mondays I'm picking from, you know, this category. On Tuesdays it's, you know, Mexican or taco. It was Taco Tuesday, but that can be any kind of like taco meal, like taco soup or taco tacos or taco casserole or whatever kind of, you know, it's that category. And then we have an Asian Wednesday, so anything Asian, you know, Chinese, Japanese, Asian noodles, ramen, you know, like any. So I'm only picking from like a smaller category. That helps me a lot. And then like a cleaning routine, so like when it's cleaning time, like I know like the number one priority is the kitchen. So I'm going to do the kitchen first. And then I'm going to make sure that all the laundry, well, I'm not going to say laundry, because laundry, I just try to do a load a day. Like when we just put our laundry in the laundry machine, and when it's full, we run a load. We don't sort things. We don't do anything like that. And so just as soon as the washer is, or washer is full, either my husband or I will start it, and then it gets switched over at some point. So laundry is kind of an exception to this rule, but like my number one priority is the kitchen needs to be clean. So I do that first. And then the next priority is the homeschool table needs to be clean, because we're going to use that every day. So that gets next. Then I move on to my TV room, because that's a room that we're in a lot and it gets pretty messy. And then the last thing on the list is my playroom, because, you know, it's okay if the playroom is a little messy because the kids play in there, you know. So like having like a set order of things, the way that the order of things go, I'm not having to choose and decide every time that I need to do something, or every time I have a cleaning window. I don't have to choose and decide what to do and when to do it and where to do it. Like I know that I go in this very specific order and I knock these things out, because I put them in order of priority, what needs to be cleaned the most and what needs to be cleaned the least. And so if I don't get all the way to the bottom, you know, this wasn't as important as this is up here. And just having that routine of knowing where, you know, what that helps a lot with like keeping me focused. Like I'm not having to make so many decisions. And so that helps a lot. Just FYI, my husband is in charge of like cleaning showers and toilets and the garbage, and he typically loads and unloads the dishwasher. Obviously the kids join in and help sometimes too, but so that's why I'm not talking about any of those things, because that's typically his job, and he manages that on his own. He uses his own methods that work for him. So I guess to sum it all up, things that have been helping me have been like making individual to-do lists that are specific for a specific area, so that I'm accomplishing all of those things in that area and then moving on to something else. And it's just helping me like kind of like hyper focus, I guess, and get knock this list out and before I move on to this list, rather than trying to do one thing from each list at a time. That has really been helping me. Having routines, so order of things that I do things in, so that I always do it that way, prioritizing what's the most important to the least important, and just always do it that way. And then eventually at some point we're going to get to the bottom, but making sure these things are done at the top, consistently, having that routine. I don't have to think about it. I just know what to do next. Just go mark it off my checklist. Those two things have been really big helpers for me. And the other thing is just like priority, setting your priority, and not having the guilt of not getting something done. Like if you don't get it done, you don't get it done. And as long as that, as long as those things aren't, keeping your children alive or having them fed, then the rest of it really in the long run doesn't matter. Your house is eventually going to be clean. Your task is eventually going to get done. If you have to miss a day of homeschool because you really need to prioritize something else that day, that's fine. Your children's education isn't going to be ruined because you skipped a day to work on getting your to-do lists done. So just having grace and having being okay with not getting the to-do list finished. You're just gonna have to accept that the to-do list is never gonna be finished. I was trying to remember earlier, there was something I really wanted to say in here and I couldn't remember what it was, and I of course didn't write it down. Writing things down is another thing that really helps me, making sure I write it down, because then that way, like, I won't forget it. Like, so if it's written down, that's why I have the checklist and all of that. But the other thing is prioritizing rest. So I don't know if anybody watches Elise Myers. I think she's hilarious, but her saying is rest is productive. I've really kind of taken that to heart. Like I'm trying not to feel guilty if I need to rest. If I need to go in there and sit on the couch for 20-30 minutes because I just need to rest, because I'm tired, because my brain has been going and I just want to sit there for a minute and watch an episode of something with my kids. Like, I'm trying not to feel guilty about that. I'm trying to be like, this is what my body needs. My body is telling me that it's tired, that it needs a break. My brain, especially when I start feeling like I can't focus at all, I'm like, my brain is telling me I need to rest. And so making sure that I'm allowing myself to take that rest and not feel guilty about taking that rest. And that might mean that every once in a while I just take a whole day off. Like, I just sit and do nothing. Like, not nothing. I mean, I have to keep my kids alive and we still do homeschool most of those days. But like the rest of the day I don't work on anything else. You know what? I needed that for my mental health, for my sanity, and making sure I'm doing that has actually made me more productive, because I'm not reaching that point of burnout where I'm just like, I just can't function anymore. So allowing myself to rest along the way avoids me burning out and just, because when I do burn out, I burn out hard and I don't get anything done for 2 or 3 days, and that is not productive. But making sure I'm adding in rest into my to-do list, really has been very helpful for me. So I hope you found any of this helpful. As I said, I'm probably not the best person to be taking tips and advice from on this, because I'm not perfect at it. I still struggle with it a lot. I'm very excited to see what the other moms say, and maybe I can implement some of those things here. If you have tips and tricks, things that have worked for you in the past, I'd really love to hear about them down in the comments. While you're down there, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out Melody's channel at Homeschool Happy Hour and the playlist that is linked down below. And you can always follow me over on Instagram at Homeschool-ology. And I think that's it for me today. So I hope you'll come back and chat with me again real soon, and I will talk to you guys real soon. Bye.